Hello, fire goddesses, and welcome to episode 96. In this episode, I talk about the power of the ask, the power of asking for what you want, what you need, and all the things that so many of us often have a hard time doing. So, if you want to learn more, and if you want to learn more about being your most powerful self, by asking for what you want, then you're going to want to stay tuned. Hello, fire goddesses. Welcome to the Reclaim Your Fire podcast. My name is Angela Noel, and I am a prosperity coach for the newly awakened or awake curious, driven overachiever, and overdoer. After running a successful acupuncture practice in Boston for 12 years, I decided to hang my hat by closing the practice and pursue what it is that I'm really meant to do in this world, and that is to serve humanity online on a global scale. Using my background in Chinese medicine, along with the brain science of habits, spirituality, and divine masculine and feminine energy balance, I am here to help you not just understand, but know how powerful you are, and that you are the person who is responsible for having the finances, inner peace, radiant health, and energy, aka the fire, in your life that you've always desired. My intention with this podcast is to serve humanity, no matter what gender you identify as, to help bring out the divine feminine goddess in each and every one of you. As you probably are already aware, the world is changing and is begging for the goddess to come out in each and every one of you. So, fire goddesses, stay tuned. Hi, fire goddesses. How are you? I wanted to come on here today and talk to you about the idea of asking for what you want. First of all, I invite you to really consider what comes up for you when you think about the idea of asking for what you want. It could be any scenario. It could be asking for a raise at work. It could be asking for certain things in the bedroom from your partner. It could be asking your best friend to not call you so much at night after 8 o'clock, or your mother or whomever. It could be asking your partner for more love, whether it be, whatever it is, whatever your love language is. It could be asking your partner for more affection or more words of affirmation or more acts of service or more physical touch or more gifts, right? Those are the five love languages. Because, side note, if you are in a romantic partnership and if you are not getting your love languages met, now we all have our primary love language, and some of us have like one or two that we really feel connected to and really feel that we need pretty regularly in order to feel fulfilled in our partnership. And when relationships fail, if you've read the book, you probably already know this, but when relationships fail, it's because the love language is not being met. The love languages of the partners, or at least one of the partner, is not being met. So with that in mind, if you are somebody, and I'm talking specifically now, I'm talking about any relationship, but if the idea of asking your romantic partner for your love language makes you feel uncomfortable, or maybe you've tried this before, you've tried this tactic before where you have tried to sit your partner down and wanted, honestly, an open and honest and candid conversation about what you need and what you want, and you've been met with resistance. You've been met with eye rolling. You've been met with, you're too much, or some kind of response in context to that. That is all information for you. So let's backtrack a little bit here. And I want to talk about what is causing so many of us, especially as women, but men, however you identify, so many human beings struggle with asking for what they want. And I know I'm speaking probably more to women because women are conditioned in society to be good girls and to be people pleasers and to not be too loud, right? Like, so think about it. Like, I can remember, I'm 50 now, okay? And I know that there's women older than me and there's women younger than me that can identify with this because this is a thing, right? Think about some of the birthday parties that you went to as a kid, right? Or think about some of the social gatherings that you went to as a kid. I remember hearing the message loud and clear, and it wasn't like somebody said, well, no, I take it back. I feel like the message can be delivered overtly in the form of don't be too much or you're getting too big for your britches, right? I didn't really hear that one. I feel like that was maybe something that was said amongst like the older kids may have heard that. But I definitely heard things like, oh, Angela, don't be so dramatic, or Angela, you're being too much. Or later on in my life, in some of my romantic relationships, I definitely heard, Angela, you're too sensitive. Because I am a sensitive person, but now that I have done a lot of inner work, I realized it wasn't really about being sensitive. Like, I'm very empathic and I feel energy and I feel other people. But my sensitivity was actually coming from, I realize now, just the inability for me to fully express myself out of fear of being too much. Does that make sense? Like, this is a really powerful realization, I feel like, for many of us empaths, for many of us women who have been given the message that by simply speaking up, you're being too bossy, you're being too much, you're being too bold, right? So what happens over time? We repress those feelings. We repress that need to express, emote, be human, right? And over time, all that emotion, right? All that emotion gets stuffed inside, and it could show up later, right? It doesn't ever, we all know this, right? It doesn't ever go away, right? You could be watching a sappy Hallmark movie and be bawling, all of a sudden be bawling your eyes out, right? Or you could just burst into tears for the slightest little thing, the slightest little trigger, and you could burst into tears. Or it could show up as projection, right? Like your needs aren't getting met, so you're going to project that unmet need onto somebody else by blaming, by shaming, by making fun of them. Like, we've all done it, right? Unless you are you were raised by parents or by guardians or you were in a school system that really encouraged working through our traumas, big T, little t traumas, all of the traumas. And realizing that so much of our triggers comes from that place, then chances are you've been there and you can relate to this. And if you're a woman, most likely you can relate to the need and the desire to be loved and liked by people pleasing and not taking up too much space and not being too loud. So I want to talk about that and dig into that topic, this particular topic around being too much, too loud, too bossy, taking up space. Because we haven't we? So many women. I know for me, it was a good part of my life where I just stuffed my emotions inside and didn't deal with them. And I want to mention too and remind you that we're human beings living in this plane right now, having this experience in the human body, in the human 3D form, right? We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So part of being human is having emotions, right? The spirits in the sky, they don't have emotions like we sometimes like to project that the spirits in the sky have emotions, right? Especially when we're talking about our loved ones who have passed. But once we leave our human body, as far as we know, we do not have emotions. So our opportunity to grow and evolve in this plane, in our very existence as human beings, is through our feelings. And that is all, goddesses, that is all emotions are, okay? It's energy that is designed to inform us about what we need to work on. So the other day I was talking to a friend of mine, and something came up. I can't remember what it was. And I was telling my friend about how I was feeling very, what was it now? Now I'm bringing this example up, and maybe I should think about it before I go on the air. But basically it was bringing up my shadow around abandonment, because so many of us carry that abandonment trauma, right? Whether it be little t, whether it be big T trauma, right? Most of us have some kind of a shadow around abandonment. And the point being is that I was feeling this, and I ended up sharing this with a friend of mine. Like, I'm just feeling this abandonment trauma. All that is an opportunity to pay attention and notice. So when you're feeling your feelings, for some people, and we're the same, but we're all different, because we all process differently. Not everybody processes things the same way. So for me personally, sharing, because I know a lot of people can relate, I process by talking things out. Whether I'm talking to myself or whether I'm talking to a friend of mine, I process by talking things out or writing things out, or even podcasting, like speaking things out, right? That is movement, right? In Chinese medicine, we talk about, we clear blockages, we clear our stagnant qi by using needles, right? Because ideally the body in homeostasis is a body in flow. A healthy body is a body in flow where our energy, our qi is flowing and not getting stuck, right? So by speaking up, however it appears, or by asking for what you need from your partner, from your friend, from whomever, you are creating movement, and you are ending that stagnation, right? Because we all know that stagnant emotions doesn't really end very well for many of us, right? For women, oftentimes, anger, resentment that doesn't really get worked out ends up in breast cancer or liver cancer, other kinds of cancers, right? Because what is cancer, right? Cancer is overgrown cells, like cells that are growing out of control. And that happens because of a blockage. If you look at it from the standpoint of Chinese medicine, right, knowing that you need to clear blockages, you need to move your qi in order to be healthy, what happens when you don't move that qi over time, right? So what happens when those unexpressed emotions just keep going inside over time, right? The energy's got to go somewhere. It's not going to just go away. When you sweep things under the rug, right? When you're cleaning your house, the expression sweeping things under the rug, I think, is a beautiful expression, because it's a metaphor. And it's also like, what happens if you actually you clean your house and you sweep everything under the rug? It's not going to go away, right? It's still going to be under the rug, right? So by you not addressing the concern in your life, the emotions in your life, it only in the end affects you. I think I made my point here. Now, the second part I really wanted to address is the idea of not expressing yourself, not asking for what you need, out of fear of being too much. Now, chances are, like I mentioned earlier, this fear, this concern could be coming from an actual real place. Like at one time you heard from somebody that by you showing up for yourself and you speaking up and you being bold and you being a strong woman, girl, female, you're being too much. You're too big for your britches. This is one I heard. You're getting too big on yourself, Angela. You're conceited, Angela. Oh, conceited. That was a word that was really thrown around when I was in elementary school and junior high school is you're being conceited, right? You're stuck on yourself. You're really stuck on yourself, Angela. That was another one I heard. So, all these messages, think about, I invite you to just consider what are some of the messages you heard that remained in your subconscious over time that has prevented you from truly showing up for yourself and asking for what you need. And I want to mention that by showing up and asking for what you need, you are creating expansion for yourself. Now, what does that mean specifically, right? When you show up and you ask for what you need, you are creating expansion in your life. You're creating more availability of everything that you want out of life, right? When you do not do those things, when you hold back, when you say, "Oh, I'm being too much," right? You're shrinking yourself. You become a shrinking violet, right? You are compressing yourself. You're becoming small. Because this is what happens, right? Remember, let's go back to Chinese medicine theory, where qi and blood, your energy, your life force energy, which moves the blood throughout your body, it needs flow, right? Just imagine for 1 second, okay? I know I talked about this already, but when you consider that our life force energy, our qi, is in charge of moving blood throughout the body. Imagine if the qi is chronically blocked. What happens, right? What happens with all the blood, right? It gets stagnant. Okay, what happens, when your blood is stagnant, your tissues, your cells, your organs, your body is not getting nourished by that nutrient-rich blood, and it also, ultimately is going to, it's not going to make it. It's not going to survive, right? So the same thing happens with us energetically when we don't emote, when we don't move our feelings, when we don't ask for what we need. I would like to offer you an opportunity after listening to this podcast to write down in your journal, or however you get it all out. For me, it's my journal. Maybe for you, it's just recording yourself on your phone talking about what you need, or writing on your computer, or exercise, or whatever. However it is that you need to get it out, right? Get it out. What is it that you need? And who is it that needs to hear this? Now, it might not be that you need something from somebody else, right? If you're not in a relationship right now, or if you're not in a situation where you need to have a conversation with somebody in order for things to clear the air, it might be something that you need from you. It might be a boundary that you need to uphold with yourself. So that's why it's really, really important to get it out of your head, because sometimes it's subconscious, goddesses, and you might not realize that this is an unmet need until you get it out, right? Because we're like emotion stuffing machines, and stuffing and stuffing and stuffing and stuffing. I mean, think about it. It's exhausting, right? I can remember, side story, talk about exhausting. I can remember when I had my acupuncture practice in Boston, and oh my goodness, I worked whenever my clients wanted me to work, except for the exception of weekends. I, in general, did not work too many weekends, but if they wanted to come in at 8 o'clock at night, they came in at 8 o'clock at night. If they wanted an 8:30 appointment, I would stay till 8:30. I would treat them at 8:30, which meant I worked till 9:30. There was actually times where I had this, it was always one or two people too. It wasn't the majority. It was just usually just one or two individuals who needed these ultra late appointments. And I would stay for them, right? Which meant that by the time I was done, it was 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and I was driving home. I didn't live in Boston. At one point I lived 25 minutes away, and at another point I lived 45 minutes away. And it was pitch dark out oftentimes at this point, unless it was summertime. And I was driving home at night. And let me tell you, that, goddesses, was exhausting. And it wasn't necessarily exhausting because of the late hour, I've realized, because I'm kind of a night owl. If I'm in alignment and I'm feeling good and the projects that I'm working on and the people that I'm serving feel good, I can stay up pretty late. And my friends will tell you, oftentimes they'll hear from me like pretty late at night, like my West Coast friends. Like I'll message them at midnight, which is 9 for them, and I'm still awake. So it wasn't that. And I'm sharing because I know this is going to be impactful for at least a couple of you. I was feeling tired because I was giving my power away to my patients. I was allowing them to run my schedule. I was not in alignment with my soul's purpose. My soul's purpose, yes, was to serve people by giving them acupuncture treatments. That is true. But it wasn't my soul's purpose to hang around and wait for people to show up for their appointment. Not that I was waiting around, but I was working really late when, I really needed to be home in order to have my meals on time, in order to spend time with my partner, my husband at the time, in order to just be able to properly unwind and get the nourishing, restful sleep that everybody needs. So oftentimes when we are exhausted, it could very well be because we're sleep deprived, because you've heard me talk about sleep a lot now at this point. I've done several episodes on it, but oftentimes like feeling tired is energy, and it's because we're giving ourselves away, because we're giving our energy away to other people or other things or other circumstances or other situations, right? So going back to exhaust, if you stuff your emotions and if you do not ask for your needs to be met, whether it's a boundary that you need to set with yourself, you need to have and practice more self-love with yourself, or you need to actually like have a difficult and uncomfortable conversation with another human being, and you're not doing that, you're going to be exhausted. Okay, so allow fatigue and exhaustion to be a red flag for you to pay attention, and to allow yourself to have the self-awareness to be able to know what you need. Does that make sense? So fatigue and our emotions are like our best friends when it comes to growth, when it comes to self-development, when it comes to expansion, when it comes to having the fire that so many of us want in our life, right? The financial abundance. If you're not making the money that you want, if you're not attracting the money that you want, this might be an opportunity to check your energy leaks and see, how much of your energy you're giving away, or how much of your power you're giving away by not speaking up for yourself. The inner peace, the eye in fire is inner peace, right? This is how I work with my clients, right? I help them reclaim their fire. Inner peace. So many people say they do not have a sense of peace every single day. And did you know, by the way, that is your birthright. Like, we are cosmic, sovereign beings. And unfortunately, because of the constraints that we've been taught in society, the indoctrination, we learn that life is hard and is a struggle. It's because we're still living from that old energy, from those old paradigms from long ago that we don't need, right? They're not true. Okay, the R in fire stands for radiant health, right? Because if we don't have our health, we don't really have a life. And you've probably witnessed that either in yourself, if you've struggled with health, or in somebody that you love. I know several people, right? Some have passed on from various diseases, from cancers, because they didn't have their health. They didn't take care of their health, and they developed a disease. And I'm not saying this in a shameful way, but that is the truth, okay? Like, you're going to hear otherwise from other experts, right? But the reason why we get sick is because we're not taking care of our health. It's because we're giving our power away to external forces. Now, you may argue there are those random things that happen sometimes, but I choose actually to not fall for that. I choose to not ever be in victim mentality. Now, sometimes I fall into victim mentality because that's the society that we are in, right? We're a society of victims. So sometimes I catch myself going into the old stuff, but I make choices every single day. And the people that I work with know this, to not fall into victim mentality and to be responsible. So radiant health. If you don't have your radiant health, you don't have a life. And finally, energy balance, energy alignment, aligning with your divine feminine and your divine masculine energies, right? So what is divine feminine energy? It is the energy of the highest form of the feminine, right? It is the ultimate yin energy. In Chinese medicine, we talk about yin and yang. So yin energy, yin is the moon. It is nighttime. It is intuition. It is creativity. It is creation. It's orgasms. It's pleasure. It's dancing. It's sensuality. It's blood. It's the truest form of the feminine. Divine feminine doesn't necessarily mean you're a woman or not a woman, because everybody needs to have a balance of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, right? And the job of the divine masculine is to hold the feminine and allow the feminine to feel safe. The job of the divine masculine is to take action. And when aligned, we need both, right? We can't just be in the divine feminine all the time, or else we would never get anything done. It would be really pleasurable. But if you want the life you want, you need to have an alignment and a balance of the divine masculine and feminine energies, right? It's like that argument, right? You know, when The Secret came out, people are like, oh, law of attraction. So if I just think that I'll have this, I'll get it. Well, yeah, you need to like match the vibration of that of what you desire. But at the same time, you need to do the thing. You need to be in your masculine. You need to take action. And where so many of us get tripped up in the wounded masculine and the wounded feminine is that with the wounded masculine is that we overdo to the point of taxing our feminine, our yin, right? So we're yin deficient and we're burned out, we're tired, and we have no intuition because it's blocked. We block our intuition. We block that which is given to each and every one of us by being too busy, by not speaking up for ourselves, by not speaking our truth, by avoiding our feelings. We block that. So for those of you that are like, you know, I've definitely said this in the past. I'm not creative, and I don't think I ever said I'm not intuitive, because I've always been very, very highly intuitive. But there was a period of time where I believed that I wasn't creative, even though ever since I was born, I've been creating, and I've been maybe not an official artist, but I've always been super creative as a child, but I lost it along the way for a while. I didn't believe that I had it. And that's because it's not because we're not creative, because everybody has the ability to create. Okay. If you're a mom or a dad, do you have a child that you made with your body, with your sperm and your egg? And did you birth a baby? You're creative. Okay. Did you cook something recently? You're creative. We all have that creation energy within us, because we can create human beings from our bodies. And the same goes for art or music or singing or whatever it is your creative outlet is, dancing. So I want to just further this point by saying and reemphasizing that when you don't speak up for yourself out of fear of being too much, you're taking away that creativity from yourself. You're giving away your power. You are taking away your ability to be intuitive, because you're so in your head and worried about people pleasing and pleasing other people. That's what people pleasing is, right? So if you're listening to this and maybe you're getting a little triggered, or you're thinking, you know, I really do need to like ask my partner to do something specific in the bedroom. Or I really need to ask for this in my relationship. There's something that's really important to me and my partner doesn't agree with it, but I need to really be firm in asking for what I want. Like, I want to be able to do this thing, right? In my marriage, there was this really, really important thing that I wanted to do for my spiritual practice. And my partner and I, we collide. We didn't agree with that, right? Like, it was not in his set of values, and my set of values did not meet there, right? When it came to spirituality. So, over time, if you're not aligning in your values and you can't work it out, like, ultimately you need to make a decision about your relationship, right? And that's what happened with us. I mean, that's not the whole story. That's just a small sliver. But when you are asking for what you want, okay, backtrack. For those of you that feel anxious or fearful about asking for what you want because you fear rejection, because you fear abandonment, right? That's okay. I want to reemphasize that it's totally normal to have these fears and these concerns, but that's where the growth happens, right? Because when you start to ask for what you want and for what you need, and you start to become vulnerable, yes, things are going to change because you've changed, right? And we're not static beings. We're not meant to stay the same. Remember, let's go back to Chinese medicine. We're meant to be in flow. We're meant to flow with the universe. We're meant to flow with Mother Earth. We're meant to flow with the moon. Like, our menstrual cycles often coincide with moon energy. The tides coincide with moon energy. So why would you expect why would you expect anything else but flow? And yet we as humans, we bury our heads in the sand and we fear this change that could happen when we speak up for ourselves. Well, my partner might leave me, or my partner might reject me, or my partner might laugh at me, or my partner might ridicule me. And I just want to mention, unless you are in a situation where you're not safe at home, you are safe by expressing who you truly are. And if your partner is not on board with having conversations like this, that's information for you. Okay? Maybe you need to go to counseling. Maybe you need to find a coach. Maybe, some kind of change needs to be made in order to improve either yourself or your partner, or together. And if not, you might need to make a decision. And let me tell you, I understand what that feels like when you need to make that difficult decision. But if your needs aren't getting met and you need to express yourself and get your needs met with your partner, and you're not doing it and you continue to stuff, you're never going to be aligned, and you're going to block your creativity. And as a result, you're not going to have what you want. You're not going to have that fire that you want, because everybody wants the fire. Everybody wants the financial abundance, the inner peace, the radiant health, the energy alignment that I talked about earlier in this episode. And if you're saying you don't want those things, I invite you to consider what is causing you to say that. Because we all want a better life, don't we? All right, goddesses. So that is the end of this episode. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, can you please do me a favor? Can you please leave a review on Apple Podcasts for this podcast? Because reviews really, really help this podcast reach more people. And thank you to everyone who has so far left a review. It really, really helps. It helps my podcast get noticed more by other people, because reviews are everything. Testimonials are everything. It's social proof. So please help me out by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. I would greatly appreciate it. And until next time, Fire Goddesses, remember to be radiant, be powerfully authentic, and know that you can reclaim your fire at any time. Until next time, take care. Hi, this is Angela Noel, and thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you have found value in listening to this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could kindly share this podcast with those you care about. Please help me spread the word of empowerment and possibility and expansion by sharing this podcast. Or you could also leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Remember to follow me on Instagram at I am Angela Noel, or you could go to my website at www.angelanoelinternational.com to learn more about my work and to find out how you can work with me. Thank you very much.